The stars looked peaceful through the main window of the ESC Defiant. Captain Do-hyun Park stood with his hands behind his back, watching the distant lights flicker in the darkness of space. His ship was on routine patrol near the Kepler 442 system, one of humanity's newest colonies. Everything seemed normal. That was about to change. "Captain, we have something on sensors," said Lieutenant Commander Ji-won Kim from her station. Her voice carried a note of concern that made Do-hyun turn around immediately. "It's big. Really big." Dr. Soo-min Lee, the ship's science officer, leaned over her console. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls. "Captain, I'm reading over 300 vessels. They just appeared out of nowhere. Their technology is far more advanced than ours." Do-hyun walked to the center of the bridge. His crew looked at him with worried faces. Humanity had been traveling faster than light for only 15 years. They had met a few alien species, but nothing like this. "Can you identify them?" "Working on it," Soo-min said. Her screen filled with data. Their energy signatures match records from the First Contact database. "These are Velkorian ships. The Velkorian sovereignty controls thousands of star systems. They're one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy." Before Do-hyun could respond, the communication system came alive. A deep voice filled the bridge. It spoke in perfect English, though the accent was strange and mechanical. "Human vessels and colonies, this is High Arbiter Thelvas of the Velkorian sovereignty. You will receive our message and comply within the specified time frame." The main screen flickered. An alien face appeared. It was tall with blue-gray skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. The creature wore elaborate armor that seemed to glow with its own light. "Humanity has violated Galactic Law Code 847B. You have expanded into regulated space without permission from the Galactic Council. This is unacceptable." Do-hyun felt his jaw tighten. Regulated space? The Kepler system had been empty when they arrived. They had checked thoroughly. "Lieutenant Kim, record everything." The alien continued speaking. "By authority of the Galactic Council, humanity must immediately cease all faster-than-light travel. You will recall all colonies to your home system. Earth will submit to galactic authority and accept our oversight. You will pay reparations equal to 40% of your planet's economic output for the next 100 years. Monitoring stations will be placed in your solar system to ensure compliance." Soo-min gasped. Ji-won's face went pale. 40% of Earth's entire economy for a century would destroy humanity's future. They would become slaves in all but name. "You have 72 standard hours to begin compliance," the High Arbiter said. His voice held no emotion, as if he was reading from a simple list. "Failure to comply will result in corrective measures. This communication ends." The screen went dark. The bridge fell silent. Do-hyun could hear his own heartbeat. Then chaos erupted. "Get me Admiral Choi immediately," he ordered. Priority 1 transmission. Within minutes, Earth's military and political leaders were in emergency meetings. The Velkorian message had been sent to every human ship and colony simultaneously. Panic spread across Earth. The news channels showed crowds gathering in major cities. Some people demanded they fight. Others begged their governments to surrender. How could humanity stand against an empire that controlled thousands of worlds? Admiral Nari Choi appeared on Do-hyun's screen. She was a stern woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had served in Earth's military for over 30 years. "Captain Park, I'm convening an emergency session with all ship captains in 30 minutes. I want recommendations." Do-hyun nodded. "Understood, Admiral. I'm reviewing the galactic law documents they transmitted with their ultimatum." "Good," Nari said. "Because right now, most governments want to surrender. They say we can't fight an empire that old and powerful." She paused. "Can we?" "I don't know yet," Do-hyun admitted. "But I'm not ready to give up our freedom without looking at every option." For the next 25 minutes, Do-hyun read through the galactic law documents. Soo-min helped him, her scientific mind picking apart the legal language. What they found was interesting. The laws were ancient, built up over thousands of years. They were complicated, full of references to other laws and old precedents. "This is fascinating," Soo-min said. "Look at this section. The regulated space claim is based on a survey done 800 years ago by a species called the Morthans. But according to this footnote, the Morthans went extinct 600 years ago." Ji-won looked over from her station. "What does that mean?" "I'm not sure yet," Do-hyun said. But his mind was working. He had studied military history, especially how smaller forces had defeated larger ones. Sometimes the key was not strength but intelligence. understanding your enemy's rules and using them against them. The emergency session began. Do-Hyun's screen split into dozens of smaller images showing ship captains from across human space. Admiral Choi sat at the center. Her face looked tired. Captains, you've all seen the ultimatum. I'm hearing from Earth that most world leaders want to accept the terms. They believe we have no choice. That's surrender, said Commander Yunahan from the ESC Sentinel. She was younger than Do-Hyun, but had a reputation as an aggressive fighter. We didn't come all this way to bow down to aliens who think they own the galaxy. Brave words, said another captain. But can you fight 300 ships with what we have? Our weapons are toys compared to theirs. The argument continued. Do-Hyun listened quietly. He kept thinking about those legal documents, about the extinct species and old surveys, about contradictions he had noticed. Finally, Admiral Choi spoke. Captain Park, you've been quiet. What's your recommendation? Everyone looked at him. Do-Hyun took a breath. Admiral, I request permission to respond to the Velkorian fleet directly. The other captains started talking at once. Admiral Choi raised her hand for silence. What kind of response? A counter-ultimatum, Do-Hyun said calmly. The screen erupted again. Are you insane? Someone shouted. They'll destroy us. But Admiral Choi was studying Do-Hyun's face. She had served with him before. She knew he didn't make reckless suggestions. Explain. I've been reading their galactic law, Do-Hyun said. It's full of holes and contradictions. They're using ancient rules to bully us, but those same rules can be used against them. If we roll over immediately, we accept everything they say. But if we challenge them using their own laws, we might force them to actually follow their own system. That's a big gamble, Nari said. Everything is a gamble now, Do-Hyun replied. But I'd rather gamble on human courage than alien mercy. Admiral Choi was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. Permission granted. Draft your response and send it to me first. If I approve, you can transmit it. Do-Hyun spent the next hour crafting his message. Suman helped him find the exact legal references. Ji-won made sure the transmission would reach not just the Velkorians, but every frequency they could identify that might belong to other Galactic Council members. If humanity was going to make a stand, the whole galaxy would witness it. Finally, the message was ready. Admiral Choi reviewed it and gave her approval, though her hand shook slightly as she did. God help us all, she whispered. Do-Hyun stood in the center of his bridge. His crew watched him with a mixture of fear and pride. Open all channels, he ordered. Maximum broadcast range. The transmission began. Do-Hyun's face and voice would now travel across space to reach the Velkorian fleet and beyond. His words were simple and direct. High Arbiter Thelvas, we have reviewed your galactic law. That's cute. We have our own. The silence on the Defiance bridge was so complete that Do-Hyun could hear the soft hum of the ship's engines. He continued his transmission, his voice steady and clear. Under United Earth Charter, Articles 4 and 7, no external authority may dictate terms to humanity without formal diplomatic negotiation and mutual consent. You have 72 hours to withdraw from human-claimed space and request proper diplomatic channels. Failure to comply will be considered an act of war. He nodded to Ji-won and she cut the transmission. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Suman let out a breath she had been holding. We just declared we would go to war with the Velkorian sovereignty. No, Do-Hyun said quietly. We just told them they don't get to make all the rules. He sat in his captain's chair, his mind already moving to the next steps. Lieutenant Kim, what's the status of other human ships in this sector? 6 vessels are within range, Captain, Ji-won reported. The Sentinel, Horizon, Pathfinder, Resolution, Mercury, and Galileo. The Sentinel is already requesting permission to join our position. Grant it, Do-Hyun said. Contact all of them. Tell them we're forming a defensive line. As his crew worked, Do-Hyun thought about what would happen next. His message had been sent not just to the Velkorians, but to every Galactic Council frequency Suman could find. Somewhere out there, hundreds or thousands of alien civilizations were hearing a newcomer species tell one of the galaxy's great powers to back off. Some would be shocked, some would be amused, some would be terrified of what humanity's defiance might mean. On Earth, reaction to Do-Hyun's transmission was immediate and divided. In Seoul, crowds gathered in the streets, some celebrating human courage, others protesting what they saw as a suicide mission. In New York, the United Earth Council held an emergency. Session. In Moscow, Beijing, London, and Lagos, leaders argued about whether Captain Park should be honored or arrested. Admiral Nari Choi received hundreds of messages within the first hour. Some called Do-hyun a hero. Others called him a fool who would get everyone killed. She ignored them all. She knew Do-hyun. He was not reckless. If he had challenged the Velkorians, he had a plan. Or at least he thought he did. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council's communication networks exploded with activity. The Council was an ancient organization made up of representatives from hundreds of species. Some were thousands of years old. Some had technologies that could reshape planets. They had seen empires rise and fall, but they had never seen a species as young as humanity respond to a Velkorian ultimatum with a counter-ultimatum of their own. On the Velkorian flagship, High Arbiter, Thelva stared at the screen showing Captain Do-hyun's message. His 4 eyes narrowed in rage. Around him, his officers stood in shocked silence. In 4,000 years of Velkorian history, no inferior species had ever spoken to them this way. Find out everything about this human, Thelvas ordered. His voice was cold and dangerous. I want to know his background, his military record, his family, everything. One of his officers bowed. High Arbiter, the Galactic Council is requesting information about the situation. Several species are asking if the humans' legal claims have merit. Thelva slammed his fist on his command console. Merit? They are a primitive species that has barely left their home system. They have no legal standing. He took a breath, forcing himself to be calm. But if they want to play legal games, they will learn why the Velkorian sovereignty has ruled for millennia. Send 50 warships to Earth. We will demonstrate the consequences of disobedience. Back on the Defiant, Suman was analyzing data from the Galactic Council's communication channels. Captain, I'm picking up a lot of chatter. Many species are talking about our response. Some of them sound interested. Interested how? Do-hyun asked. Hard to tell, Suman admitted. But several of them are asking each other about the legal codes you mentioned. I think some of them have had their own problems with the Velkorians enforcing laws on them. That was good news, Do-hyun thought. If other species had grievances against the dominant powers, humanity might not be alone. But would any of them actually help? Or would they just watch to see what happened? Commander Yuna Han's ship, the Sentinel, took position beside the Defiant. Her face appeared on Do-hyun's screen. She was grinning. That was quite a speech, Captain. Very dramatic. I hope it was worth it, Do-hyun said. Either way, it was amazing to watch, Yuna said. So what's the plan? I assume you have one. I'm working on it, Do-hyun admitted. Right now we need to buy time. The more we can learn about galactic law and the Council's politics, the better chance we have. Over the next several hours, the 6 human ships formed a defensive position along the outer edge of human-claimed space. They were pathetically small compared to the Velkorian fleet, but they were in position. Meanwhile, Suman and her science team worked with similar teams on the other ships to analyze every piece of data they could gather about the Galactic Council. What they discovered was fascinating. The Council had been created thousands of years ago by the oldest species in the galaxy. It was supposed to bring order and peace, but over time, the powerful species had written laws that kept them powerful. Newer species had to follow rules they had no part in creating. They couldn't expand freely. They couldn't develop certain technologies. They had to pay tribute and accept oversight. It's a system designed to keep the old empires in control, Suman said. But look at this. There are hundreds of legal codes meant to protect smaller species. Codes about fair treatment and diplomatic rights. The problem is that the powerful species just ignore them when they want to. Can we use that? Ji-won asked. Maybe, Do-hyun said. He was reading through a particularly old section of law. Suman, what's Galactic Law Code 23A? Suman searched her database. It's ancient. Over 1,200 years old. It's called the right of legal contestation. If any species believes they are being treated unjustly under galactic law, they can invoke this code to demand a formal hearing before the full council. During the hearing, all military action must cease. Do-hyun leaned back in his chair. A slow smile crossed his face. That's it. That's our move. Captain, the Velkorians won't just accept that, Ji-won warned. They won't have a choice, Do-hyun said. If we invoke it properly, they'll be legally bound to comply. And if they don't, they'll be the ones breaking galactic law in front of everyone. Before he could explain further, alarms blared across the bridge. Captain, new contacts. Jiwan shouted. 50 Velkorian warships just arrived at the edge of our sensor range. They're moving toward Earth. Do-hyun stood up. This was it. The moment where words became action. Open a channel to the Velkorian fleet. Wide broadcast, the channel opened. High Arbiter Thelbas appeared on the screen. His face showed barely contained fury. Human captain, you have made a grave mistake. Your world will now learn the price of defiance. Surrender your vessels immediately, or we will destroy them and proceed to Earth. Every eye on the bridge turned to Do-hyun. The other human ships were watching too. On Earth, billions of people watched their screens, waiting to see if humanity would surrender or fight a battle they could not win. Do-hyun spoke clearly and firmly. High Arbiter Thelbas, I invoke Galactic Law Code 23A, the right of legal contestation. Under this ancient law, I demand a formal hearing before the Galactic Council to contest your claims against humanity. Until that hearing concludes, all military action must cease. Do you accept this invocation, or will the Velkorian sovereignty become the first to openly violate galactic law in front of the entire council? The transmission ended. Thelbas's face froze on the screen. Somewhere in the galaxy, the Galactic Council's legal systems were automatically processing Do-hyun's invocation. Code 23A was ancient and rarely used, but it was still valid. If the Velkorians attacked now, they would be in violation of the very laws they claimed to enforce. On the Defiance Bridge, Suman checked her console. Captain, the Council is responding. They're acknowledging the invocation. Thelbas is receiving orders to stand down. Do-hyun allowed himself a small breath of relief. They had bought time. Now came the hard part. The Nexus Concord was unlike anything Do-hyun had ever seen. The massive space station floated in neutral space, far from any star system. It was ancient, built by civilizations that had turned to dust millennia ago. Now it served as the meeting place for the Galactic Council. As his shuttle approached, Do-hyun could see hundreds of ships from dozens of species docked at various ports. Beside him sat Admiral Nari Choi and Ambassador Taemin Kang. Taemin was Earth's senior diplomat, a man who had spent his career negotiating treaties between Earth nations. Now he faced something far more complex. I've studied every piece of galactic law we could access, he said nervously. But I still feel like a student taking an exam I haven't prepared for. That's because we haven't, Nari said bluntly. We're making this up as we go. Then we'll make it up well, Do-hyun said. He looked at the fourth member of their group. Magistrate Yoonji Seo was a brilliant lawyer who had specialized in international maritime and space law. She was sharp, confident, and refused to be intimidated by anyone. When Earth's government asked who could represent humanity before an alien council, her name was at the top of every list. Remember, Yoonji said, reviewing her notes one last time, we're not trying to win a popularity contest. We're trying to expose the contradictions in their system, make them follow their own rules for once. The shuttle docked. As they stepped out, they were met by a tall, graceful alien with silver skin and 3 arms. The being spoke in soft musical tones that were translated automatically by devices in their ears. Welcome to Nexus Concord. I am Council Speaker Varthen of the Keltorian Unity. I will guide you to the hearing chamber. Varthen led them through corridors filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some were humanoid. Others were completely alien, with body shapes that defied Earth biology. Many stopped to stare at the humans. Some looked curious. Others looked hostile. All of them were assessing whether humanity would survive the day. The hearing chamber was enormous. It was shaped like an amphitheater, with seating for hundreds of species representatives arranged in circular tiers. At the center was a raised platform where speakers would stand. High above, holographic displays showed translations in thousands of languages. As the human delegation entered, silence fell. Every being in the chamber turned to look at them. Do-hyun felt the weight of their stares. His people looked small and insignificant in this place, but he kept his back straight and his expression calm. On one side of the chamber sat the Velkorian delegation. High Counselor Myrex was there, a being even more imposing than High Arbiter Thelbas. He was covered in elaborate ceremonial armor and wore symbols of authority that were thousands of years old. His 4 eyes studied the humans with cold disdain. Council Speaker Varthen took his position at a central podium. The Galactic Council recognizes the invocation of Code 23A by the human species. This hearing will determine whether galactic law has been applied justly. High Counselor Myrex will present the case against humanity. Magistrate Yunji Seo will present humanity's defense. Myrex rose and moved to the speaking platform. His voice was deep and powerful, filling the chamber without need for amplification. Honored council members, the case is simple. Humanity is a young, primitive species that has violated galactic law by expanding into regulated space without permission. They have shown disrespect for council authority. They have issued threats. Their very presence in this chamber proves their arrogance. The Velkorian sovereignty requests authorization to bring humanity under proper oversight before their defiance spreads. Murmurs ran through the chamber. Many species nodded in agreement. The old order must be maintained. Upstarts must be controlled. Myrex continued, listing humanity's violations. Each one sounded damning. By the time he finished, it seemed impossible that humanity could defend itself. He returned to his seat with obvious satisfaction. Council Speaker Var then looked at the human delegation. Magistrate Seo, you may present your defense. Yunji stood and walked to the platform. She looked tiny compared to Myrex, but her voice was clear and strong. Honored council members, I will address each charge in turn, but first, I ask you to consider one question. How can humanity violate laws we were never told about? That got attention. Some council members leaned forward with interest. The Velkorian sovereignty claims we expanded into regulated space, Yunji continued. But this space was designated as regulated 800 years ago by the Morthan species. According to Galactic Law subsection 1240G, such designations expire after 500 years if the claiming species does not maintain occupation. The Morthans have been extinct for 600 years. By your own laws, this space reverted to open status 300 years ago. Myrex stood up. The council never formally revoked the designation. The council didn't need to, Yunji shot back. The law is automatic. Or do the Velkorians now claim that laws only apply when it's convenient for them? More murmurs. Some species were nodding now, but not in agreement with Myrex. They were nodding at Yunji's point. Second, Yunji said, the Velkorians claim we showed disrespect by not immediately accepting their authority. But let me read from Council Code 156D. When a species achieves faster than light travel, they shall be granted a diplomatic contact period to learn galactic law before being held accountable for violations. The Velkorians never made diplomatic contact. They never offered to teach us their laws. They simply appeared with warships and demanded submission. Who violated proper procedure here? Dohyun watched the council members. He could see doubt spreading through the chamber. The mighty Velkorians were not used to being questioned like this. Third, Yunji continued, the Velkorians demanded reparations equal to 40% of Earth's economic output for 100 years. That's extractive economics. It would cripple our civilization. The council outlawed such practices 800 years ago after the Korthan exploitation scandal. Yet here we are with a council member demanding exactly that. Those reparations are fair compensation, Myrex growled. For what? Yunji asked. For occupying empty space? For not knowing laws we were never taught? This isn't about compensation, it's about punishment. It's about keeping younger species weak and dependent. The chamber erupted in debate. Some species were outraged at Yunji's accusations. Others were clearly thinking about their own experiences with council enforcement. Council Speaker Var then called for order. When the chamber quieted, he looked at both delegations. These are serious points. The council must consider them carefully. High Counselor Myrex requested permission to speak again. Council Speaker, the humans' legal arguments are clever but irrelevant. The fundamental issue is respect for galactic authority. Humanity must learn that the council's word is law. Young species cannot be allowed to challenge the order we have built over millennia. That was when Captain Dohyun stood up. He had not planned to speak. That was Yunji's job. But Myrex's words had struck something deep inside him. He looked at Ambassador Taemin, who nodded. Then he looked at Admiral Nari, who smiled slightly. They understood. Council Speaker, Dohyun said. May I address the council? Varthan looked surprised but intrigued. You may. Do-hyun walked to the platform. He stood beside Yoonji, looking up at hundreds of alien faces. High Counselor Mirex just said that young species cannot challenge the order. He said the Council's word is law. But I have a question for everyone here. What makes a law just? The chamber fell silent. Far then leaned forward with interest. On Earth, Do-hyun continued, we have 10,000 years of history. We've built empires and watched them fall. We've created laws and broken them. We've fought wars over freedom and justice. And we've learned something important. Laws are only just when everyone has a voice in making them. He gestured at the chamber. How many species here helped write galactic law? How many of you were invited to the table when the rules were created? Or did the old empires simply tell you how things would be? More murmurs. Some species looked uncomfortable. They knew he was right. You claim to enforce law, Do-hyun said. But what you enforce is power. You've built a system where ancient civilizations make rules that benefit themselves, and younger species must obey or be destroyed. We humans have a word for that. Tyranny, and we have 10,000 years of history teaching us how to resist it. High Counselor Mirex stood up. This is outrageous. You accuse the Council of tyranny? I accuse the Council of forgetting why laws exist, Do-hyun said calmly. Laws should protect the weak and limit the powerful. But your laws do the opposite. They protect the powerful and limit everyone else. The chamber exploded into argument. Some species were shouting in anger. Others were shouting in agreement. Council Speaker Var then tried to restore order, but the damage was done. Captain Do-hyun had said what many species had thought for centuries but were too afraid to say out loud. The Galactic Council chamber remained in chaos for over an hour. Council Speaker Var then finally managed to restore some order, but the damage was done. Species that had quietly accepted council authority for centuries were now openly questioning it. Representatives were arguing with each other. Some supported the humans. Others demanded they be punished for their disrespect. The unity of the Galactic Council was cracking. High Counselor Mirex demanded an immediate vote to authorize military action against Earth. These humans have proven they are a threat to galactic stability. They incite rebellion. They question legitimate authority. They must be controlled now before their poison spreads further. But Council Speaker Var then invoked parliamentary procedure. The humans have raised questions about systemic justice in our laws. Such accusations require formal investigation before any action can be taken. It is written in our oldest codes. Mirex's face showed fury. Then we will investigate. And when we find humanity guilty, as we surely will, the punishment will be severe. The hearing was adjourned for deliberation. The human delegation was escorted to quarters within the Nexus Concord. As soon as they were alone, Taemin collapsed into a chair. That was either brilliant or suicidal. I'm not sure which. Both, Nari said. She looked at Do-hyun. You know you just made enemies of some of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. They were already our enemies, Do-hyun said. At least now some species might see we're worth supporting. Yoonji was reviewing data on her portable device. Captain, you're right. I'm getting messages from 17 different species. Small ones mostly. They want to talk privately. They're afraid to speak publicly, but your words resonated with them. Before anyone could respond, alarms sounded throughout the station. Director Junho Bae, head of Earth's Intelligence Division, appeared on their communication screen. His face was grim. We have a problem. A major Valkorian fleet just left their staging area. 200 warships heading toward Earth. Our intelligence says they're going to attack regardless of what the Council decides. Nari stood up quickly. That's a direct violation of Code 23A. The hearing isn't over. All military action is supposed to be frozen. The Valkorians don't care, Junho said. They're moving fast. They'll reach Earth in 48 hours. Admiral, our entire defensive fleet is 34 ships. Most of them are exploration vessels with minimal weapons. Do-hyun felt his chest tighten. He had known this might happen. The Valkorians were too proud to accept being questioned by humans. They would rather break their own laws than show weakness. Taemin looked at the others. We need to tell the Council. This is a direct violation. I'll do it, Do-hyun said. He requested an emergency session. Council Speaker Var then, despite the late hour, agreed to reconvene. The chamber was less crowded this time, but all the major powers were present. Do-hyun stood at the speaking platform. Honored council members, I have just received intelligence that a Valkorian fleet of 200 warships is en route to Earth. They will arrive in less than 2 days. This is a clear violation of Code 23A. The hearing is not concluded, yet they attack anyway. The chamber erupted again. Council Speaker Var then looked at High Counselor Myrex. Is this true? Myrex stood calmly. The fleet is moving, yes? But it is a defensive measure. Humanity has proven they cannot be trusted. There. Captain stands before you and accuses the Council of tyranny. Their very existence threatens galactic order. Immediate action is necessary. That's not your decision to make, Var then said. The Council decides. The Council is paralyzed by debate, Myrex replied. While you argue about procedure, a dangerous species grows bolder. The Valkorian sovereignty acts to protect galactic stability. You should thank us. Several species voiced support for the Valkorians. Others protested. The Council was splitting into factions. Roughly 30% supported the Valkorian action. About 40% opposed it. The rest were too afraid to choose sides. Do-hyun realized with cold clarity that no consensus would be reached in time. The Council was too divided. Earth was on its own. Back on Earth, Captain Hana Lim was organizing the defense. She commanded the ESC Horizon from Mars orbit. Every available ship had been called to defensive positions. Civilian transports, mining vessels, anything with engines was being pressed into service. Engineers were working around the clock to add weapons to ships never meant for combat. Hana looked at the tactical display. 34 military vessels against 200 Valkorian warships. The math was brutal. Earth would fall in hours, maybe less. But humans had never been good at accepting impossible odds. All ships, this is Captain Lim, she broadcast. We all know what we're facing. The Valkorians think we'll surrender when we see their numbers. They think we'll beg for mercy. They're wrong. Earth has survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and nuclear fire. We've stared into darkness before and said no. We'll do it again. Hold your positions. Fight for every meter of space. Make them remember that humans don't break easily. On the Nexus conquered, Do-hyun was making his own calculations. The Council would not act in time. That left only one option. Change the political equation. Force a choice that the galaxy could not ignore. Dr. Suman had been analyzing Council politics since they arrived. She had identified 47 species that had suffered under what they saw as unjust enforcement by elder races. They were afraid to speak openly, but they watched and listened. Captain, Suman said quietly, if we can get even one of these species to publicly support us, others might follow. It's like the first person standing up at a protest. Once someone breaks the silence, it becomes easier for others. But why would they risk it? Ji-won asked. She had come aboard the station with a security team. Supporting us means making enemies of the Valkorians. Because, Do-hyun said slowly, they're tired of being afraid. They just need someone to show them it's possible to resist. He drafted a message. Not a legal argument this time. Not a clever challenge. Just simple truth. He broadcasted on all Galactic Council frequencies. To all species of the Galactic Council, you have a choice. Stand with the law as it's written, or stand with the powerful who ignore it when convenient. If the Valkorian sovereignty attacks Earth without Council authorization, humanity will consider the Galactic Council itself an enemy. But if any species, just one, publicly condemns this action and stands with us, we will know there is still hope for justice in this galaxy. Choose. The message spread through the Nexus conquered like fire. In private quarters, alien diplomats argued with their homeworlds. Some governments ordered their representatives to stay silent. Others debated what taking a stand would mean. Meanwhile, the Valkorian fleet crossed into human space. Commander Yunahan had volunteered to lead a small strike force to slow them down. 6 ships against 200. Everyone knew it was suicide, but Yuna was determined to buy Earth a few more hours. Do-hyun wanted to stop her, but he had no authority to do so. Admiral Nari made the call. Commander Han, stand by. Do not engage yet. Captain Park is working on something. Admiral, with respect, what can he possibly do? Yuna asked. They're almost here. I don't know, Nari admitted, but I trust him. Give him time. On Earth, people gathered in the streets. Not to protest or panic this time. They gathered to watch the sky, to wait, to see if humanity would stand or fall. In Seoul, millions filled the city center. In New York, crowds packed Times Square. In Mumbai, Rio, Cairo, and Sydney, people held vigils. If Earth was going to end, they would face it together. The Valkorian fleet entered the Sol system. Earth's defensive fleet powered up weapons. Every ship captain checked in. They were ready. They would fight even though they knew they would lose. High Arbiter Thelvas, commanding the Valkorian attack fleet, sent one final message to Earth. Humans, surrender now, and we will show mercy. Your ships will be captured, not destroyed. Your people will be controlled, not eliminated. This is your last chance. Captain Hana Lim responded for Earth. We don't surrender to bullies. Come and try. The Valkorian fleet powered weapons and moved forward. Earth's fleet spread out in a defensive shell. The distance between them closed. 5,000 kilometers, 4,000, 3,000, and then impossibly a new transmission cut across all channels. It came from the Nexus Conquered. Council Speaker. Farthen's voice was firm and clear. This is Council Speaker Varthen of the Keltorian Unity. The Keltorian government condemns the unauthorized military action against Earth. We invoke Council Emergency Code 7, immediate cessation of hostilities pending investigation. Furthermore, we extend diplomatic protection to the human species under the ancient right of sanctuary. In the Sol system, every human ship's crew stood in shocked silence. On Earth, the crowds erupted in cheers and tears. On the Nexus Concord, Doyun felt his knees weaken with relief, but one voice was not enough. Not against the Valkorians. Not yet. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. The Valkorian fleet held position. High Arbiter Thelvas was calculating his options. One species supporting the humans was not enough to stop him, even if it was the ancient Keltorians. He could still attack and claim it was necessary for galactic security. Then another transmission came. This one was from a species called the Rillian Collective. They were a mid-level civilization that controlled 43 star systems. Their representative spoke nervously but clearly. The Rillian Collective stands with the Keltorians. We also condemn this unauthorized action. The Council must decide together, not through military force. Then another species joined. Then another. Within 10 minutes, 23 different civilizations had added their voices. They were not the most powerful species in the galaxy. Many of them were small, young, or had been pushed around by elder races for centuries. But together they represented significant voting power in the Council. On the Nexus Concord, High Counselor Myrex watched with barely controlled rage. This was not supposed to happen. Lesser species did not form coalitions against their betters. They certainly did not do it to support humans who had been in space for barely 15 years. He sent an urgent message to High Arbiter Thelvas. The communication was encrypted, but Earth's intelligence services had gotten very good at breaking alien codes. Director Junhobai intercepted it and sent it to Doyun within minutes. The message was simple. Stand down. Attacking now would fracture the Council permanently. Some species might even form an alliance against the Valkorians. The risk was too great. In the Sol system, Thelvas stared at his tactical display. His fleet could destroy Earth's defenses in an hour. He could teach these arrogant humans a lesson they would never forget. But then what? He would be an outlaw. His people would face opposition from dozens of species. The Valkorian sovereignty was powerful, but even they could not fight the entire galaxy. Captain Hana Lim watched the Valkorian fleet on her sensors. They had stopped advancing. Their weapons were still powered up, but they were holding position. Minutes passed. Each one felt like an eternity. Then the Valkorian fleet began to turn away, slowly, maintaining combat readiness but turning away. They were leaving. On the horizon's bridge, someone let out a sob of relief. Others cheered. Hana simply closed her eyes and whispered a prayer of thanks. Earth had survived, but the crisis was not over. High Counselor Myrex himself arrived at the Nexus Concord in his personal flagship. It was a massive vessel, a symbol of Valkorian power. He demanded an emergency council session. When the session convened, Myrex stood before the assembly. His voice was cold and controlled. The Valkorian sovereignty has ordered our military fleet to withdraw. We respect the council's authority. However, we must address the fundamental problem. Humanity is destabilizing galactic order. They have encouraged rebellion among younger species. They have questioned laws that have maintained peace for millennia. This cannot be tolerated. Council Speaker Var then responded calmly. High Counselor, the humans raised legitimate legal questions. Many species have privately expressed similar concerns. Perhaps it is time to review our laws to ensure they serve justice, not just power. You speak of justice, Mirek said. But justice requires order, and order requires hierarchy. Some civilizations are naturally superior. They have earned their positions through thousands of years of development. Younger species must accept guidance from their elders. Do-hyun stood up. He had not been called to speak, but he did it anyway. High Counselor, before humans achieved faster than light travel, we nearly destroyed ourselves in nuclear war. We've made terrible mistakes, but we learned something from our failures. No one is naturally superior. No species has the right to rule others simply because they're older or more powerful. Mirex looked at him with contempt. You are children playing at being adults. You know nothing of galactic politics. Then teach us, Do-hyun said. Have diplomatic exchanges, cultural programs, scientific cooperation. That's how civilizations should interact, not through ultimatums and threats. Before Mirex could respond, he sent a private message directly to Do-hyun. It appeared on Do-hyun's communication device. You have bought yourself time, human, but you have also made enemies of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. You will learn that being right and being safe are not the same thing. Do-hyun read the message and sent a reply that only Mirex would see. Then we'll be right and dangerous. Our ancestors didn't survive by being safe either. The council session lasted for 3 more days. Finally, a compromise was reached. Earth would be granted provisional council membership with limited voting rights. Humanity would not have to pay reparations or accept monitoring stations. But they would have to follow galactic law going forward, now that they had been properly informed of it. More importantly, the council established a commission to review all laws for fairness and justice. Ambassador Taemin Kang was appointed to this commission. It was the first time a species so young had been given such responsibility. Many elder species were outraged, but they could not stop it without proving the humans right about council unfairness. The human delegation prepared to return to Earth. As they walked to their shuttle, Council Speaker Var then approached them. The ancient Keltorian bowed slightly. Captain Park, I wanted to speak with you before you leave. Do-hyun bowed in return. Council Speaker, we owe you a debt we can never repay. You stood with us when no one else would. I stood for what was right, Var then said. For 2,400 years I have served the Council. I have seen laws enforced but rarely questioned. You humans did in months what many of us could not do in millennia. You reminded us that law must serve justice, not power. He paused. Many species will resent you for this. They will see you as troublemakers, but others will see you as hope. What do you see us as? Do-hyun asked. Var then smiled, a strange expression on his alien face. As necessary. The shuttle left the Nexus Concord and began the journey home. Do-hyun looked out the window at the stars. So much had changed in such a short time. Earth was no longer isolated. They were part of something larger now, something complicated and dangerous. What happens now? Ji-won asked. We prepare, Admiral Nari said. The Velkorians will not forget this. Neither will the other elder species who see us as a threat. We need more ships, better technology, stronger alliances. And we need to be worthy of what we demanded, Yunji added. We told the galaxy that their laws were unjust. Now we have to help make them better. 5 years passed. In that time, humanity transformed from a small isolated species into an active player in galactic politics. Earth established diplomatic relations with 67 civilizations. 12 new colonies were founded. The United Space Command grew to over 200 ships. Captain Do-hyun Park, now promoted to Commodore, stood on the bridge of the ESC Constitution. It was humanity's first dreadnought-class vessel, a symbol that Earth could defend itself. The ship was heading toward a new sector of space, leading a small fleet on an exploration mission. His crew was skilled and experienced now. Dr. Suman Lee ran the science division for the entire fleet. Lieutenant Commander Ji-won Kim had been promoted to captain of her own ship. Commander Yuna Han led an elite strike force that carried out missions other ships could not handle. They were all veterans now, tested by fire and politics. A message arrived on Do-hyun's personal channel. It was from Council Speaker Var then. Commodore Park, I wanted to share something with you. The Legal Commission has completed its first round of reforms. 37 laws that unfairly restricted younger species have been repealed or modified. It is a small start, but it is a start. The galaxy is changing, slowly but surely, and it is changing because humans refuse to accept that youth meant weakness. Do-hyun read the message several times. Then he recorded a reply. Council Speaker, thank you for standing with us when it mattered most. The fight for justice is never easy, but it's always worth it. Humanity will continue to push for a galaxy where law serves everyone, not just the powerful. We're here to stay. As the Constitution jumped to faster than light speed, Do-hyun thought about everything that had happened. The ultimatum that could have destroyed Earth, the gamble that saved it, the alliances that changed galactic politics. Humans had not won through superior technology or ancient wisdom. They had won by refusing to accept rules designed to keep them weak. They had weaponized the very laws meant to control them. They had forced the galaxy to either live up to its principles or admit it was a tyranny. And most importantly, they had proven that new voices mattered, that questions should be asked, that power should be challenged. The galaxy was vast, filled with civilizations that had been exploring it for thousands of years. Some of them still saw humans as upstarts who needed to learn their place. Others saw them as allies in making the galaxy more just. But all of them now knew one thing: humanity would not bow down. They would not accept laws written without their consent. They would not be silent when treated unfairly. They had their own laws. Laws about freedom, justice, and the right to determine their own fate. And anyone who forgot that would learn what happened when you challenged a species that had survived 10,000 years of their own history. Earth was no longer asking for permission to exist. They were demanding respect, and slowly, grudgingly, the galaxy was learning to give it.